What's up everyone and welcome back to another Path of Exile 2 market analysis video. So first off, market analysis is when you look at the currency ratios in retrospect and then you make a future prediction on how these currency ratios are going to move. And from the fund where you have invested your divines into already, we have made 300 divines in the last 24 hours. And that just comes from investing into currencies that were undervalued at some point and then selling them when they were overvalued. And you can do the same by looking at the data that we publish every single day for all of the different important currencies inside the game. And you can then invest into these currencies. If you are interested into investing into the fund, I recommend that you check out the Discord server in the video description and that you look through two different channels. First off, the welcome channel right here, and then the fund info channel, and you'll know everything that you need to know. So check that out if you're interested. Let's get started with the market analysis. So to do this market analysis, we'll be looking at this public Excel document. You can look at this in the video description, though I recommend that you download it and that you display these graphs properly, because if you look at them at web, they will just have the different data points. So this Excel, because there was a very good suggestion recently, will now be called the Exile Excel, and it will be improved a lot. So check that out and bookmark it so you'll know everything that you need to know. So right here in the data tab, you can see a lot of data, and this is the data for the last about month, so the last 30 days. And then in the Analyze tab, the data is analyzed and put into these two different tables. And you don't really know how the math is made. It's just important that you know that this is the short-term development graph and this is the long-term development graph. Of course, there's also the investor wallets and the loans. If you're interested, check that out. You can see how much everyone has invested and how much their investments grew. And then also maybe some guys who have loaned some divines. So if we look at the market situation right now, in the short term, we can see that there is a few omens that are kind of breaching the 20% mark, which means that these omens, they are announcing a big change in value. So every time that something breaches the 20% marks, which is 20% less down here and 20% more up here, this is an indication of a huge market change. You can see that every time a currency has breached the 20% line, it has either went up a lot or it has diminished by a lot. So that's why we'll be looking at two different omens that are now expected to drop in value because they were overvalued previously, which is the omen of sinistral erasure and the omen of whittling. And we'll be investing into them as soon as they reach a certain value threshold that is determined by the past data for these two omens that you can see here. And then we'll be investing into these two omens and we'll be expecting a profit until the next 15 to 20 hours. And if that turns out to work, we'll be investing into something else because then we're going to sell them. So that's something you'll have to watch out for. These two omens were undervalued before and will now probably drop even further because they have reached this 100% value mark, which determines that these omens are now going to drop in value. So that's something that you really want to watch out for. And it will also be very useful if you join the Discord server, because I might make an update on how we're going to finally do some public investments that I'll also share with you when I'll buy currency and when I sell currency, so you can follow along if you're interested. So to look at the long-term development graph, we still have the same prediction as before. The long-term development graph shows us that the Chaos Orb is still the best currency for long-term investments. Though it has kind of evened out right here, it hasn't risen as much as I would have expected it to, because it's kind of hovering around the 20 to 1 mark with the divine. And that means that the divine are so slowly catching up, and as soon as the divines are reaching that value gap, then we're going to put all the divines all the currency into divines if we're interested in keeping long-term value. Of course, we are not going to do that because we need these divines for the short-term development trades. But if you're just worrying about keeping the value of your fund, of your stash, then you'll put everything into Chaos Orbs, as that is the smartest. So yeah, that's something that you want to watch out for. And considering that the omens are now going to drop a lot and are going to rise a lot, we can expect big changes considering these two currencies, the Chaos Orb and the Divine Orb 2. So maybe there will also be an opportunity to invest into to Chaos Orbs for us, the fund, and then maybe trade back to Divines if they are extremely undervalued. So yeah, that's about it, guys. I see you in the next one, and thank you very much if you watched the video to the end. I haven't said this in a long time, but it's still just 5 to 10% of you guys that are watching the videos to the end. So you are a very small percentile of the viewership if you have watched until now. So I want to especially thank you guys for that, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. I'm out.